Hey guys, y'all feel like reviewing a movie?
Yeah.
Yep. Today, welcome back. This is Cooking with Bubba Reviews. Today we're reviewing the Star Wars prequels. Here with Bubba, Musical Productions, Hunter, and me, Josh, I edit. Who wants to start off? Any in particular want to start off?
The prequels. Infamous, famous,
Yeah.
very...
Should we say if we like them or not from the beginning? Do y'all want to do that?
I'm unbiased. I mean, I grew up with them as a kid, so obviously...
You are biased?
I don't have that, it doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie interjection because I watched
Star Wars movie to you.
All at the same time, basically.
Right.
I was alive while they were coming out. I was watching the originals at the same time, probably around 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
And they all feel like Star Wars to me. Like Legos are coming out at the same time. I grew up literally building. I'd watch them while I'm building Star Wars Legos.
That was Star Wars.
I'm old school. I grew up on the original, but to me it still came out of George Lucas's head. If he vomited it out of his head, it's good.
A lot of people would agree with you. They think he vomited it out of his head.
Than Jar Jar. That was a turd.
You didn't like Jar Jar?
Jar Jar is the best character in my opinion.
I mean,
he's got so much depth.
He's probably the best Sith Lord in my opinion.
Dude, his struggle of getting kicked out of the tribe for being himself.
I love it.
And then he ends up saving them from the droids.
There's a big arc for Jar Jar. He has that redemption curve. And then the second movie really brings
You think they really would have won that battle on Naboo if there wasn't Gungans? Dude.
Jar Jar saved them.
True. I mean, that was what brought that together. I agree with you there, but they could have done it without Jar Jar.
You know...
you think you crazies!
If they just took that out?
You know...
It's like the comic relief because he had that with 3PO and some and Han and some and all that. So when he goes back, the big thing was he was showing from what he added to the original is the, hey, look what I can do. I can make a character 100% CGI. That was what that character was.
He had new toys he could play with and he wanted to show them
He threw all that out there, which was fine, but he did one specific character like that.
Which is essentially why he decided to wait so long for the movies after all.
And then the second one and the third one, and you saw Jar Jar have a very minimal, the third one he was almost non-existent.
But
Episode 3.
Go back, you said in the originals he did have a lot of witty, Han was on it and stuff. Then going back he had to put in Jar Jar for comic relief. And that might play a big role in why people don't like the prequels that much is because most of the characters don't have room to be witty and entertaining. They're like Jedi.
Well, I mean,
a lot more story to try to do.
Obi-Wan was
one of the best.
Arguably the best.
He was so good, especially in the second and third one. An absolute joy to watch.
Well, that's because it was a different actor. I think the one in the first movie, he was so serious.
He was still just Jedi.
Even his action figure sucked. He could only move his arms. His legs were stuck. He had a skirt. It was not cool.
The most articulated thing on that action figure was the stupid Jedi Padawan ponytail he had.
Yeah, and that's literally what sparked...
But we aren't talking about the action figures. Let's talk about the movie.
That's what sparked the ponytail for younglings.
Yeah.
That was the first youngling ponytail you ever see.
One of the main things that pops out to me, mostly in the... can we all agree... I liked the first one. I thought the first one was a solid film.
Yeah, and it grosses. I think it's the second highest grossing film.
Well, again, you had to start like he did. He had the concept in his head. He said, "I can do episode 4, 5, and 6 and make that the first set. I've got a beginning story. I may have an ending story." So at some point, you could go back to Old Republic, you could go back years and years and make movies. But again, it had to start somewhere, and then you knew where it had to end up. You had to show Anakin turning into Vader, and you've heard Clone Wars before, and you had to get that in there somehow. So you kind of knew what it had to build up to, but the first one had to start somewhere, and so he started with that.
And so the point of the first one was to get the characters where they needed to be, was to set up the pieces, and then the other two move the pieces into
It's
place.
telling a tale of Darth Vader. It's essentially...
It should have, but I feel like the first one is a really solid film, but it didn't really accomplish as much as it could have as far as the tale of how Anakin becomes Darth Vader.
Well, I think that it gave you enough information for what they were going to tell you in the second two movies. And it introduces all the characters that are a part of the thing.
Right.
It introduces the state of... I think a lot of the movie, the reason it was kind of like, oh, it doesn't really tell this tale of Anakin, because it's more so telling the tale of how the Republic works. It's set up, how the Separatists work and are set up, how the...
Jedi.
Yeah, how everything is like, kind of... It flows. It introduces the flow. So that way when they show the second movie, it flows way easier. And you're not asking questions.
But that's the thing. They spent the whole first movie setting it up. They didn't need to spend the whole movie saying, all right, this is how everything is. And then they just kind of didn't do anything with the rest of it. Like they had their lightsaber fight. Then they made sure they got rid of the Sith. The Darth Maul to reset stuff. They played it as safe as possible in the first one.
Now, the one good thing they did get right with the first one was the lightsaber battle. Because you go from very stoic King Arthur in the first, or the original movies, to something that was just mind-blowing. And especially
because they wanted to show that this is what trained Jedi Knights look like.
It made sense. It wasn't unjustified.
Right. Yeah, that was totally cool. In the second one, you had Yoda just blow. I mean, I remember screaming out in the theater, "Damn, that was crazy!" And then to see the Geonosis battle, all the fighting and the blasters and all the lightsabers and then in the third one, where it's just the Mustafar battle was crazy. So, the other thing, other than Jar Jar, that I don't think he did right was he killed Darth Maul off too soon.
Well, Darth Maul's not dead. And that's
at the time I saw it, I didn't watch the Clone Wars.
As far as the movies go.
Yeah, we haven't seen the last film, so we technically don't know if it was for a reason or not. And he's from Dathomir, and Dathomir, they're known to live well beyond hundreds of years.
But just to see that and have it done,
and without their legs.
Yeah, apparently.
And obviously, from the rumors is that you see Darth Maul fall down in the hole. You also see Emperor Palpatine fall down in the hole.
Obviously, falling in holes does not kill them.
So it's like
Yeah, but to be fair, they double tapped the Emperor. He fell down a hole, and then they blew up the ship that the hole was
Boba Fett fell down in the hole. Obviously, he came back from canon. So,
and I think it's canon that he comes back like once a year and shoots the Sarlacc pit from the safety of his ship. That's a canon little tidbit in there. So,
but one thing about the prequels that you addressed earlier, that people said Yoda was too hyper,
right?
And because it's not 20 years before he dies,
people didn't like that Yoda was so skilled with a lightsaber. They just wanted him
that he was so energetic.
They thought it was stupid
because they wanted the same guy, and they wanted him to be as kooky, but he obviously was in solitude, and that's why he was more like
that is a good word, kooky.
Yeah,
he was no one to interface with.
Yeah,
it's justified.
Even though he's
lived, still don't like it.
Yeah.
They think it's the prequels trying to go.
And people are like, "Oh, he died of old age, though," and he didn't. He died because of the Force. The Force is so clouded with the dark side, and he's so old. I mean, he is old. So, and you could tell that even in the prequels, he had trouble using the Force, and we're assuming that's because he's in the last stretch of his life,
Right.
But he's definitely not gonna die soon because it's too. But I think that his life was definitely cut short. because Yemenians, which is his species, they're known to live for like 1,500 years, I believe. I could be completely wrong, but
Thanks, so Baby Yoda ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
yeah. Baby Yoda's probably like 50.
We're gonna be stuck with that for a while.
And the other thing I remember watching when I, trying to pay really close attention to it, since I knew we were doing these things, was when they do give the test to Anakin, should we train him or not? And Yoda senses the fear, and he says, and then I quote, "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering." And you see that a lot as the child. Anakin don't want to leave his mom, coldness of space, right. The fear's there. And then when you get to the second one, it's still the fear of feeling the pain his mom feels. And then he kills the Sand People. And then you go to the third one where it's the fear of losing Padme. And I think even as you fill in the gaps going to the original trilogy, the fear is still there. Now it's the fear of his mortality, because I'm in a suit. I'm fearful that I'm not gonna be as powerful as the Emperor.
Right.
You still eat up with the dark side, but can I ever reach that goal of doing that? Then you get to, okay, I know I've got a son. Now it's the fear of, am I going to be replaced by him, or can the two of us do what we need to do?
And then as he sees his son being murdered, he's like, am I going to let my son...
Fear of losing him.
He's like, I'm not afraid anymore. I can finally prevent someone that I love from dying.
Not repeating the same thing. So
and he broke the cycle.
So you do see the fear carrying on.
There is 3 new movies that beg to differ.
Okay, but that's a new cycle. Like, he broke the cycle of,
I feel like it's
him inevitably letting his people in his life. His mom died because he left.
But because of
he could have saved his mom.
Because of his choice, though, people are still feeling the after effects of that. It's not necessarily the Emperor, but it's because of what Anakin
he should have finished the job. He should have whipped out the lightsaber and been like, "Woom woom," like took out the Emperor. But instead he just threw him down a hole.
But that was one thing I didn't remember.
And now the Emperor's alive.
Anything on the second one?
On the second one,
Attack of the
Clones?
Clones?
Second one made me physically cringe during the.
There's some parts of the movie
when Anakin and Padme are alone. I physically recoiled.
But I think that the reason that it was like that was because they tried to portray how Darth Vader would act in love, and I think they should have been more so.
I think I felt that way the first time I saw it, but once I rewatched it, I was not as harsh on that part, because it was more of two people really trying to figure out. I had these feelings, but I don't know. I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way because we really can't go anywhere. And then when it comes down to death,
and their situation was just very awkward. Like they were putting Padme was kind of like no, and Anakin was like
yes,
or he was like yes, but also no, and then
But again, you have to remember we have brother and sister kissing in the original trilogy.
Well, that's
so
because
that's all free game.
This
this
was okay to me.
I found out
my son's gonna do it.
I looked it up,
Yeah.
and actually, the second movie was directed by someone else, not George Lucas.
Yeah,
George Lucas hired someone else,
written by
and
someone else.
that person just didn't know they were brother and sister.
George Lucas
didn't
take the time to read over it and be like, "Oh, wait a minute, they shouldn't be kissing in that part. They shouldn't be."
Yeah, and George,
he's got more important things to do than proof check the freaking Star Wars script.
And so they literally that happened because the director did not know. They were brother and sister, and that's the reason that they.
What do you think his reaction was when he found out? My bad, you guys. That one's on me.
Luke is like.
Anyway, back to the.
In the third movie, he's like, "Did we kiss the last movie?" This is. I don't know if I want to do this.
I feel.
Can we just?
He was happy about it too.
Can I just admit defeat?
Well, another thing, I know I didn't watch the Clone Wars series, so Count Dooku I'm sure they filled in a lot more of his backstory. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the Clone Wars. No.
Yeah. A good bit, yes, but
the part I didn't understand, and still, I'm sure there's a lot more material out there, was the Cyphoid Dyas that created the clone army a decade before. I don't really know a lot more about that person or fake person or whoever it was.
Did they ever cut that?
So what we understand is that Cyphoid Dyas is the guy who trained the Emperor, we're assuming.
I'm thinking Cyphoid Dyas was probably Count Dooku in disguise.
Oh, that's true, because
somebody
Jedi
else,
had to do it.
or Jango says it was Darth, whatever his Darth name was.
Are you talking about Darth Sidious?
No. Plagueis. No, not Plagueis was before.
Darth Plato?
No.
Or is Snorkel already...
But all we know is that Qui-Gon knew of the clones. But he died before he could make any suggestion to the council.
Well, then that might make sense, since Count Dooku was...
and that's why they let Obi-Wan take control of it, because...
Darth Tyrannus. That was who.
No, that's not his name.
Yes, it is.
Darth Tyrannus?
Yes, because you, at the end, before he gets... After he has the fight and cuts off Anakin's arm, he said, Lord Tyrannus. I'm telling you.
What's up with these Sith names,
I'm
man?
you.
Jedi get stuff like Obi-Wan, Anakin, Luke. And then you got the Siths over here with Sidious, Tyrannus, Plato, Snorkel.
Plagueis, get it right.
Oh yeah, because that's so much better.
But I think that's more of like an Old Republic kind of thing,
Well,
like I think that there might have been plans to touch on that, and even in the Old Republic game, like it touches on that, like because I played it and they were talking about them. Well, I played like part of it, so I don't know exactly. I'm pretty sure at the end you get to like meet one of them or something.
But that makes a lot of, it makes sense of showing the clone army, and then the series shows the Clone Wars, so that was cool to fill in the gaps in between the movies. And I know there's a lot of stuff online when they changed from going from the clone armies to the stormtroopers, and then filling the gaps and kind of closing that out. And so there's a lot of history on in between those three movies.
And one of the things is, with the prequels, he explained the clones, he explained the Fall of Jedi Order, he explained a lot of stuff, and obviously those are things that you would have to explain. But how Anakin becomes Darth Vader is just one of the many things on the list to be explained, that's a problem. Like in the second movie, Anakin just dreams about Padme because he doesn't have time for Anakin to come and meet Padme again and then realize that he loves her after he's been reunited with her. They just have to get it going so they can explain the clones in that movie. So I think trying to explain everything leading into the originals hurt the movies a good bit. They could have focused on Anakin.
Okay, see, I think that if they focused on Anakin too much, it would have just been so boring. And I think that, like, you saw what happened when they focused on Anakin. It's pretty boring. Like every time where it's just solely Anakin, like the love stuff.
It was never solely Anakin. Like in the new movies, to divulge for a bit, there are a lot of quiet moments where the characters have moments to themselves, and it's just facial expressions.
Yeah, but Anakin's not that interesting.
Anakin never. He could have been. He wasn't.
Okay, but you're speaking in hypotheticals where they would have to change so many things.
They would just need, like, give him one or two scenes where something happens and he reacts.
Well, I think the way that they did it is the best way that they could have done it. They introduced how Obi-Wan goes, meets Jango Fett. They're including Jango Fett, Boba Fett's father. They're including the Geonosis, battle dome, where they're, like, producing droids, a droid factory, what it looks like on a planet. It's introducing, like, we have droid factories on many planets, and this is one of them. It introduces, like, a lot of the war concept that's about to happen. And essentially, and they've already talked about the war before,
Like, and when he gives him the lightsaber in A New Hope,
he talks about the war,
the Clone War.
So it's already something it's something that has to be addressed.
I understand what you're saying, but the fact of the matter is, plus we have to talk about the third movie. The first one dilly-dallied a lot, didn't tell as much of the story as it could have, and the second one had to make up for that and crammed a lot into itself. And then the third movie, I felt like, was a really solid movie.
You had to come to the climax of him.
Anakin felt really fleshed out for me.
Okay, so look, they had to jump age to age to age to show, and like I think that it is what it like. Should they have had Anakin probably falling in love with Padme between the second and third movie over time during the Clone Wars? That's probably how it would have worked best.
That's fine.
And see, I think it might have worked better if that they just were in love and had a baby in the third one, like randomly. You're like, oh,
I don't know.
Possibly, like maybe they kiss at the end of the second one, and then like they have a baby. She's like, I'm pregnant, and Anakin, like in the kind of the beginning of the third one, he's like, oh, and that I feel like that might have fleshed out better because it could have got rid of that whole love scene. They could have gone more action, and Anakin could have been somewhere else, doing his own thing, or could have been on Geonosis with Obi-Wan, and it could have been like a storm of the droid factory, and they get captured. Could have been.
Well, that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, but
they did. It did feel a little rushed. They could have not.
Yeah, they didn't have
at
to.
the end of the second one, they're getting married. It's not just them.
Right. A lot happened. The second one is a busy movie, but we need to talk about the third.
I don't think that it necessarily mattered if they were married or not.
Well, let me add one thing here. Is that like in the first one you had the Gungans and they needed them in order to fight the droid battle and kind of zero that out. And the second one they needed the droid army in order to get the Death Star because that's really their only point. The Viceroy and all that, it's another CGI character that really doesn't make any sense. But that culminated once you saw Count Dooku get the Death Star. You knew that was coming. So that's their whole point to the whole story was to show that.
Well, Viceroy and Newt Gunray, they
don't say Clone Wars.
They were politicians. They had place on the council, something that the Sith couldn't.
At that point,
yeah, he couldn't. He had a place on the council, yes, but he couldn't act. He couldn't make advances for the CIS like they did, and because he's running the head of the Republic, and also he wasn't in power when it first started, so they had to have someone.
He's puppet on a string.
Yeah, and Newt Gunray and Vice Gun.
We know
you know who I'm talking about. They were like
green guy. Yeah.
They were like the ticket in, and they were the ticket to speak for the CIS basically and everyone knew they were working for the CIS essentially, but they were the ones that could like incorporate coups d'etats and stuff like that within the government. They could work within the government and do things for it. And then towards the end, they knew that they were with the CIS and they kind of had to go into hiding, and that's why they were hiding on Mustafar. They're like, we can't really be politicians anymore. Like it was
crumbling for them, but that was because he was sucking all the power out.
Yeah,
like the third one.
Right.
He made them into scapegoats
at the beginning.
Because they were targeted by the state, weren't they?
In the beginning of the third movie, I think that's the best beginning to any Star Wars movie I've ever seen, not including the new ones.
No, that was the best one.
Obi-Wan and Anakin just being Obi-Wan and Anakin. Which we wanted to see that, obviously. Just two Jedi being Jedi together.
Yeah.
Padawan and Master. That was awesome.
And you can really tell that their chemistry clicked together. Those two people in particular, those actors, I think that really played a big part in it.
And they did a good job, like you said at the beginning. It was almost equals. You still had the the title of Master and Apprentice or Master and Padawan, but it
Yeah.
felt like I have surpassed everything. I'm such a better pilot, and then at the end,
it's
you
interesting.
see the lightsaber battle. It was close. Had he not had a better footing, he would have died.
Obi-Wan was able to keep a clear head there.
And again, it was the fear of being beaten, the fear of all this other stuff, and not keeping himself in check.
I think it's fair to say that Anakin was off his game when they were fighting. He wasn't really having it
he
all
just
together.
choked out his girlfriend.
He just killed a lot of kids.
Like
a lot.
I'm sure he's in deep,
like an absurd
deep
amount.
turmoil. Like
a huge amount of dead children.
And I think both sides you can see. You have to tap into the anger.
But you don't understand. Like, so many dead kids. No, please continue. An insane amount. It's ridiculous. So many Padawans died.
It was only 42 if you actually do a head count.
Really?
A head count.
Oh. He's so funny.
If Obi-Wan
really was more than 42 though. It was
tapped into a darker part of himself, he would have been more powerful. And had Anakin tapped in more of the light, he could have controlled himself more and not done some of the things. So you can see that there is a gray area there sometimes. You have to be able to go one way or the other in order to win a battle or win a...
And I think, although Jedi portray themselves as the light side, when you really listen to how they talk and how they try to be, they're trying to be in that neutral area. That's the ultimate goal.
It's just like a yin and a yang. You have to stay in the middle.
Although they don't really acknowledge it.
Because, you got to think, the Jedi have been around for a long time, and you have to think that they're working like, we know that if you choose one thing completely, then you're imbalanced.
Well, maybe that's what it is. Dark side is just a lack of neutrality.
There's no holds barred. I'll do whatever it takes to win. Where the light side is, there are boundaries we have to stay with.
Yeah, because even love leads to the dark side in the Jedi code. Yeah. So dark side isn't necessarily evil, although that's how it's portrayed. It's just a lack.
At the end of the day, Yoda once called the Jedi the keepers of balance, and that's essentially what they are.
Right.
They're not the keepers of good. They're not the keepers of evil. They're just the keepers of balance.
Although I think they actually say that they're the keepers of good in the prequels at one point.
I don't think so.
That sounds like an Anakin line. I think Anakin said that. I think
we're the keepers of good. No, that's definitely not a Star Wars quote.
Hayden Christensen said that. I have his name written down.
You have any other topics?
We already said the action was fantastic. We already talked about Anakin. I do have to say, the originals had a lot of good characters, obviously. Like, you can list off a bunch, Jabba, all of them. But I feel like the prequels had a bit more, or if they did have more, theirs popped just a little bit more. Like, Grievous, you could fill a whole Toys R Us with Grievous merch. Like, everybody.
Dude, Grievous was just a really well-constructed bad guy.
And that's the thing, he was just there to be the bad guy.
But that's what it was. I think they needed a new Sith Lord each movie because you have this new mysterious dark character. Right. You got Darth Maul. He's just so mysterious, and that's what made him so cool. Because it's like you don't really know anything about Darth Maul. He just looks like he's about to go wipe out. Like he's about to go kill some.
Yeah, there was that dramatic eeriness to him.
Yeah.
Grievous didn't really have that. He was just kind of like.
He was like the Bane of Star Wars. Like
I liked it.
Well, you knew that the Emperor would be over everything from where this story goes. So there had to be somebody else filling in the bad guy on the ground.
Yeah, and it keeps a freshness to it. And
plus, he kind of
if you killed Count Dooku and there was nobody else, what would happen? Yeah. It'd just be kind of awkward.
Well, obviously,
but there's Grievous.
Someone there. And I like that he couldn't tap into the Force. Because that kind of added to he had a strong distaste for Jedi. He was the only one. Well, no, the droids said it. But besides that, the Siths were never like Jedi scum, or at least I don't think. But Grievous was like every other line. He was looking down on Jedi. He hated them, not just like the people. He hated the Jedi Order.
Yeah,
and that was added to him a lot.
And the one thing I think with the original, and then going back with when these were made. The story is what the story is. You had books that would kind of fill in the gaps. Really, after Return of the Jedi, books really started saying, oh, I can fill this in, or I can take this story this way, or tell stories about Darth Vader, what he did or didn't do to kind of build into Return of the Jedi. And then when the new ones came out, books were kind of tapering off. You had more of the video games filling in. And then you had the cartoon, the Clone Wars.
Yeah, you have so much filler.
Now you have the Netflix, the Disney Plus.
Yeah, and the comics went on forever. Like, the comics told so much of the filler.
Yeah, so a lot of that...
Like, since the 90s.
And they're so good.
Yeah, no, like, you've had the Old Republic comics, I think, since, like, 89.
So that's where it's going to go now, is, you know, even with the Rogue One movies coming out. You've got these...
Actually, no. I think that was completely false. Hold up. I think I'm thinking about Batman. Something Batman, sorry.
No, there's the comic books have always been there, but they're taking it off of the written word and putting it more visual.
Right.
And now once they close this chapter, there'll be so much more that you can go back and feel. And doing it, I think with the Disney Plus, you can serialize it like the movies were. It doesn't have to be one whole movie. We can go 30 minutes or an hour and get so more
and then it's all reachable.
Yeah, but you get so much more into the character too.
Before that, if you wanted to know a specific part in the Star Wars timeline, you had to go hunt down a book or a comic book series.
Now you can go on Wikipedia, and there's all kinds of...
Or like Disney Plus is going to have all that now.
Well,
now, it's about that time. Do we give the prequels a passing grade? We're just gonna do yes, we liked it, or no, we didn't. So, yay or nay, Hunter? Did you like it?
Yes.
Were they good movies?
I did like it. I mean, I'm pretty... I said at the beginning of the video, I wasn't biased, but like now that I think about it, like, because of the time period that I grew up in, and like the upbringing, of course I love it. I thought they were phenomenal.
Bubba?
Yes, I did like it. Again, it's going out of the mind of George. He had
That's true.
So much more in these because it was the pre-story to his original story that I did like it.
The second one almost killed it for me. I wouldn't say the second one is a bad movie, but it kind of poisoned the prequels as a whole. But I think the first and third one really saved it. So I would say, yeah, the prequels are pretty good. The characters will always stick.
I do say that the second one is definitely easy to walk away from. Like, you're watching, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get up and do it.
I almost stopped watching.
Well, I feel like the second one, you can just you'd be like, I'm gonna just walk away, go do something, let the movie run for a second. Like, it's that kind of movie.
Right. Well, that was our judgment. Prequels pass. We're going to be doing the new ones next, so keep an eye out for that. And thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.